Okay, it's time. 7th session. And today we're doing design. Okay, so I have to say that the last session I got so involved in the whole thing that I wasn't sure how I did. But just going by your reflections, I'm getting a sense that, okay, it seems to have made a lot of sense to a lot of people, especially the what so what now what piece. So I think today when we do design, I'm going to push those buttons again so you get a better grounding of how what so what now what is used. Yeah? Okay, great. Anything you want to say before we begin? Say or ask. No?
Vishwas?
Yeah.
I don't want to ask anything, but I want to say something. May I?
May you?
Yes. Okay. So I just wanted to congratulate you on being chosen as the presenter for a.
Oh, yeah.
I read about it and it just made me feel so happy. Yeah. So just I would have given you a hug had we been having this conversation in person. So yeah, just think that I'm giving you a hug.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yep. I mean, all my gurus are in that list. If you saw that page on the AE website, all those guys who've gotten it, many of them have been my teachers. So it's quite an honor. I mean, I was quite shocked. There's a bunch of people who are supposed to propose your name and they did, and just the fact that it got accepted. Yep. Nice moment. Anything else? Oh, we need to, which one are you plugged into? You're on Wi-Fi. Oh. Wait. Give me 1 sec. I'm just doing the connection. It's all tangled. But mine doesn't have Ethernet. Oh, okay. Okay. Right. Anything else? Yeah. Yes.
One of the things that I was thinking about was I went back to our conversation about reflection and feedback. And I realized that a lot of times I tend to use the reflection session as feedback for me. And I was trying to see in the process how many times my urge to get that feedback has led to the reflection session being a certain way. So I think for me, the last session was really about realizing that my design so many times is also about me and my needs. And while from the first session, I think something that has stayed with me is what you said, that you do what is real to you. You do what it means to you. So if you're doing a leadership session, think about what leadership means to you. So while holding that true, I think in the last session, it really pushed me to question what do I prioritize? And so many times it's my need to get feedback or my need to have some sense of control over how that whole time is going to play out, has affected my design and has affected the kind of questions I've asked. So I think it's just left me in a space where I'd like to take a step back and, just like find a new way to approach some of the things I'm doing. So yeah, that's where I am.
Yeah, kind of scary to figure that one out, huh? That all along it's been about me.
Yeah. So I think that's where I still am.
Yeah, and I think most conversations are like that, no?
Most conversations are like about me. Yeah. Yeah. I think the way I engage with conversations, it does become about me. I think it's important for it to be about me as well, for me to also fully be invested in it. But I think for me, just realizing that how much it was driven by my needs without me realizing that it was driven so much by my needs was somewhat scary, was somewhat overwhelming. And I think that is what I want to be more conscious of that with my next I'm already facilitating, I'm already in a process. And
nice.
I almost feel like एकदम से ऐसे वो नहीं होता पैरों तले जमीन ऐसे निकल जाती है types. So in the middle of this process of me facilitating a 21-day program, suddenly I'm like, oops, what am I doing? So that's where I am, I think.
Yeah. Nice. Anybody else? Okay. So I had sent out a message saying, hey, see if you can talk about what this course has been for you on the website. And some of you did, so thank you so much. And if anybody else feels like saying it, and I'd like to say at this point that we are not looking at editing any of that. So you can write whatever you want. And if you can put your photograph there, that would be even nicer. Lends a degree of credibility to whatever it is that's being said, even on the website. Okay, so that was about me. Now let's begin what is about you. Right. So you know that we've been using the opening picture of our presentation as a metaphor for a journey that we've been on. And over time, that picture has changed. And we've tried to find pictures that represent how we are feeling about being on the course. So conforming with the metaphor, it's still a tightrope walk. And just know that today's and next week's session is something that we've not done before. Parts of it have not been done in deep either. And I haven't done it in the previous course. And because I'd said that this course is pretty much, this one is about working with classrooms and groups. So the context for today's sessions are going to be classroom. But those of you who are in corporate work or outdoor ed or any of that kind of, that might be a little different, please do, if you don't get it and you can't make the connections to what you are doing, please feel free to stop me and say, hey, can you make a corporate connection or service learning environment connection or whatever it is, and I'd be glad to do that. Great. So and so you can see that that whole point of view is from one of the banks. From the other machines.
You want to secure this?
Okay. Give me a second. I'm just putting a connection here to pattern. The white. They should be. Yeah, that one. Oh, you don't have it, man. Okay.
So you'll have to sit on this if you want. on that.
Okay. You think? Oh, let it be. We'll just work around it.
Okay.
Hey, we worked around harder stuff last time with rain and all kinds of stuff, so it should be okay today. So I just noticed that you'd all frozen, so which means that the connection was a little poor, but it's okay now. Right. So you can see that the end is nearer. You can see the anchors, and while things certainly appear clearer as my balance improves on that, so on that journey, so to speak, on the tightrope, things don't always show up the way they are. And I think that was amply clear in the reflection session that we, as you can see a bunch of questions, and we know that reflection is an act of asking a bunch of questions, but the problem always is, which is the best question to ask and how do I get the 4S into play? And I have also said that, look, you know, the danger is that you want to get there tomorrow. And it's not going to happen like that. It's practice, it's consciousness. But the beauty also is that every conversation that we have with anybody during the day offers us an opportunity to practice some of that stuff. So you don't have to have a group, but if you can be aware of the kind of questions you're asking and whether you are taking conversations to an exploratory place on a daily basis, I believe that that will definitely transfer to your work. So that's just a thought. So just building on that metaphor, I don't know, okay, do you think you can build a metaphor? Build a story around that tightrope walk? What does the rope represent? What do the anchors represent? And that's in the context of this journey of this online session, this course that we're doing. Anybody wants to try? I'm assuming you can hear me. You're all so quiet and silent and expressionless. I'm saying, oh, maybe they didn't understand the question. Yeah, but you can think. I'll give you time. Is the question clear? Thumbs up if you are okay with, okay.
It's like balancing your act as a facilitator in goading the group, them realize the shortcomings and still not killing the horse.
So Milind, where is the group in this, who is the group, where is the group in this picture?
No, I was only looking at me as walking the rope.
I know. So, so this is the thing about building analogies or metaphors. Look at the picture. What does it have? And what relationships can we build between the picture and the experience that we are having? Assume you are the tightrope walker. No? You want me to give it to you?
I see myself trying to balance, to improve my balance as a facilitator, if I can call it that, and balance in terms of a lot of ways, in terms of the autonomy that is given to the participants and the autonomy that I contain, in terms of where the sessions go and how I take it forward, whether even in terms, especially in terms of reflection sessions, where do they go and how do we take it forward? So there's an act of balancing that I'm learning now. So I see it that way.
Okay, go on. Nice, continue. I mean, these guys, these crazy guys, they stretch these ropes across gorges, right?
also journey from one point to the other.
Nice. Continue. What are those 2 points?
From the previous, I have to think a little bit more in terms of the 2 points. Maybe I can, enunciate it and make the 4 as well. Just give me some time.
Okay. Anybody else, you can build on what Shika and Milind have said. So just remember that, unless it's different for you. Continue. Yeah, who's?
So Vishwas, the anchor at the end, at the start and the end are basically for me the principles that you follow when you're getting into experiential learning. The tritrope represents my journey, where somewhere I might have been in a state of a disequilibrium most of the time, not somewhere. And how do I get myself to balance? How do I trust the principles and work on them and walk on them so that I can get to the end destination, or rather the whole journey? What do I learn from experiences and how do I create experiences? Sometimes you might fall down in the dots, but I think you just need to trust the lifeline that's holding you there, that you're going to get on your feet.
Himangi, nice, very nice. I'm just curious about, can you tell me a little more about what the 2 anchors represent? You
so
said
the one start was where I was, right? And then I undertook the journey, which is anchored actually on the principles that we have been discussing so far.
Wow, nice, nice. So I'm just going to move the cursor around to those 2 anchors. So what I'm hearing you say is that this anchor, the starting place, is where you were.
Yeah.
This is what? What does it represent?
This represents the whole journey is anchored on these principles. So there are multiple principles. If you see it on properly, there are multiple things that on which my journey is based, or principles that align or
simplify. Himangi,
yeah.
simplify. Yeah. Let's just take any one principle.
The principle of, I don't think there can be any one principle, like even the disequilibrium or even the questioning or even the reflection, that because last time we were somewhere on the rope and just reflecting, right? So yes, so it's based on all the principles. I don't think you can isolate anyone and say, okay, only this principle. The principles of experiential learning, if that you want.
Okay. So what does this anchor that you're moving towards represent?
So it represents that if I trust in the principles, I will be able to create experiences where people actually learn something fruitful and they have some much more confidence from point A to point B.
You see, this is your journey. It's not about them.
So I would have much more confidence when I've traveled from point A to point B, following the principles.
Okay. Can I try?
Yeah.
Okay. I love what you're saying. So this is the meaning I'm making for myself through what you're saying. The starting point represents the where I was. And then I was introduced to a principle and I started on this rope walk. And of course, it's a balancing act. There is disequilibrium, but the disequilibrium is most in the middle. And the middle is where maybe that moment of practice and application is. And as I walk towards this end of the anchor, the anchors are more stable. And so one anchor represents where I was in the context of, let's say, practice of challenge by choice. And I know theoretically that challenge by choice means certain things. And this end of the anchor represents putting that challenge by choice into practice.
You're frozen. Yeah.
Okay. So this end represents challenge by choice in practice. And I'm kind of getting there. So it's more firm, it's more stable, and my understanding is better. So, and in between, of course, there's going to be disequilibrium. So the rope is that journey of practice between where I was and where I might be able to take it. Yeah? Okay. And so I'm going to flip this whole thing around a bit. So the anchors also hold me up.
Yes, Vishwas, but your video is frozen. I can't hear you clearly. Yeah.
Better? So is this better or is this better? Can you see two me's? Can you hear me? Yeah. Is this better? No? Okay.
This one's better.
Okay. So I'm going to flip this around a bit.
Do you want to switch?
Let's see. So just a reminder that above and below the line, there's anybody who wants to, who feels like they're below the line today about anything, if you want to just speak up and get that out of the way so we can move on.
Hi, sir. Dhruv here.
Yes, Dhruv.
So I just wanted to add to the metaphor, the analogy that we're trying to make with the high line. Can I do that?
Yeah.
So I feel the leash which is anchoring myself via the harness to the line is also my learning, which helps me get back on the line if I fall off my journey. So that is something that I just wanted to add, apart from the anchor points also being principles and learnings.
Nice. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to flip it a bit. And I'm looking at that anchor in a different way now. And when we create experiences for people, in some ways that becomes the funnel. And that funnel, the mouth of the funnel really represents a lot of different things that we're throwing in and hoping that it will become the activity that we present to a group might become an experience for them. I have not earlier differentiated these two words, activity and experience. So let me do that now. The activity is what we present to the group. And we do it with our idea about how activities happen, should happen, and the brief of the activity, the instructions, the rules, the boundaries, all that, when it's at our end, it's an activity. And the whole intention is that the activity becomes an experience for our participants. When an activity remains an activity with our participants, then we call it a recreational experience because they're not really thinking about anything. They're just going through the, they're going through the thing as an activity. And of course, it might be fun and so on and so forth. But the experience is when they personalize the activity and make meaning of it in the context of their own lives. Right? Okay. So when I inverted that, I think what we're trying to do is this. What we're throwing into that funnel to invite people onto that rope walk, if you will, of that uncertainty, of that disequilibrium that we're trying to create. The kind of stuff we put in are the group's goals and objectives. So goals of the group and the objectives of the activity. We're putting in our ideas and opinions, and each participant is also putting their ideas and opinions into that. When I'm putting in my conditioning and my history, I'm putting in my present state of being. I'm putting in my awareness of myself and the group. I'm putting in the activity and the content and everything I'm putting into the mouth of that funnel. Right? So that's what you're also doing when you are going to be working with a group. There's this funnel with its mouth open and you're putting all that stuff into it. So whether it's classroom or it's corporate work or it's even the family, it's about the same thing. We're putting all that stuff into it. Okay? Now, the thing is this, at that point in time, maybe we've talked about this before, but I want to just reinstate that we're also asking ourselves these questions. Who is it for? Why am I doing this? What's the setting? What's the environment? Where am I going to be? Am I going to be in a classroom? Am I going to be in the outdoors? How long will it be? So there's a whole bunch of philosophical questions and logistic questions going on in our heads. What's the team? So it's also, all that stuff is also going into it. Now, I don't know if you realize it, but we've covered a lot of ground on this course, and every one of those things that you see out there is what you've been hit with through the 6 sessions that we've had. And you're going to be hit with more today and the next session. And all of this is going to go into that funnel in some form or the other from your understanding of it. Yeah, that's a lot. Now, the thing is this, not everything finds a place. Not everything finds an answer. There are things that you haven't figured out yet. You're still figuring out, which is what that disequilibrium comes from. And you're trying to figure those things out. And there's a very natural process of filtering and saying, okay, which of this is relevant for me? What am I going to really pay attention to? What am I really going to be paying attention to? And the moment you begin that filtering process, there's a very natural piece that begins to happen. And those of you who have been involved in kind of getting stuff ready, designing the curriculum and so on and so forth, you'll notice that there's a lot of stuff gone in, and then all of it's not going to happen. When I was designing this course, every session in our presentation, we've got a lot more than we actually cover. And you begin to feel this high pressure. And there's only one question that you can ask to sort that out. And each time you come up with that dilemma, is this important? Which of this is important? Which of it is not so important? Ask yourself this question: why am I doing what I'm doing? And it just seems to help filter a lot of stuff. Yeah. How many of you felt this pressure of having a lot of ideas and then having to reduce it? Okay, you're familiar with it. Nice. So just in case you wonder why and you want to avoid it, there is no natural avoidance of this process. It is going to happen. Don't worry about the screen. Just listen to me. Just listen to what I'm saying. Okay, so that pressure builds. Don't worry about it. The question, why am I doing what I'm doing, is a great one to try and answer when you're trying to filter stuff out. And then you come to that place where you say, okay, now I've got to deliver this stuff. And then you begin to think, okay, how is each piece going to play out? And then whatever begins to play out finds form in whatever you're actually going to do. Yeah? Now, a lot of us do this, but we do it in a fairly unstructured, haphazard, unthinking manner. No, I wouldn't say unthinking. Let me just say unstructured. Very often not sequenced. Okay? Now, when we can get our ducks in a row and we know what's going to happen after what and how it's going to play out, then we call that design. Okay. This is supposed to get applause. I mean, it's such a brilliant idea. It doesn't matter. Okay, so what we're doing today is a couple of concepts that are often used mostly in the outdoors, but you can do it. It's relevant in the context of a classroom as well, and I'm going to try and make it and contextualize it as we go along. And I just want to use. Do you know who this guy is, by the way? Yeah, who is it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Oh God, I mean, he's a normal yellow guy with a mustache and hair. But you know, you recognize him. Isn't that brilliant? Okay, so this is one of the things he said. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. I mean, is that science or is that philosophy? It depends on where you come from, right? Okay, so I'm just going to convert it to whatever makes sense to me. And years ago in the 70s, there's this organization called Project Adventure, which came up with a pretty interesting idea, and they called it the Adventure Wave. And the adventure, now you can read it in whichever way you want, okay? Over the years, I've just found different ways of looking at it. And my disclaimer to anything that's been covered on this course, as you know, is that, look, this is my interpretation of it. But if you want the original piece, then I believe I have put it in the folder. And the funny thing is this, the Adventure Wave took only originally, when the idea came out as a one-pager. It's in a book called Islands of Healing. Anyway, so this is what the Adventure Wave really is. And the Adventure Wave tracks, or you can design around an Adventure Wave. And if you disagree, then let me know. But primarily our intention is group development and individual development in anything that we do. Yeah? Okay, so there is something called the beginning of an experience and the end of an experience. And that could be either a whole academic year, or it could be 4 hours or 8 hours or 2 days or 5 days or whatever that period of interaction is. And you could see the Adventure Wave as the whole year. And within that, you have many other waves because you're maybe walking them through many different kinds of experiences. But there is a sequence that you can use, and that sequence has a logic and a theory behind it. And here is what it is. Over the years, you see, in my earlier years, I was quite stupid, like many of us are. I mean, you may not feel that way right now, but as you grow older, you say, my God, I was so stupid. So in some ways, we're all stupid at many different times in our lives. Maybe 10 years from now, if I live that long, I'll say, damn, I was so stupid then, as of now. So, and there was a time when I was stupider than I am today. And I used to love activities, and I was pretty good at being able to create, generate, deliver activities. And I got good enough at it for people to reach out and say, call me and say, hey, you know what, I'm doing this program. Can you please give me an activity? And that was probably the most painful part of my journey through this world of experiential ed. And the questions they were asking were these. Please tell me how to sequence my activities. And what does that mean? What shall I do in the beginning? What shall I do in between? And how should I finish? Are these your questions as well? I'm just curious. So put a thumbs up, click a button, and that should be a hands-on experience for you in this virtual world. And yeah, if it's true for you, just click that button. Okay. Have you understood my question? Click that button again if you've understood it. I see only one thumbs up, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It requires the use of motor skills to click a button. So see if you can do that. Everybody, when I say 3, get ready, okay? When I say 3, just click that, find that button and then click it on the count of 3. Are you ready? Yeah? Okay. All those who are not showing their faces, I want to see your faces if you don't mind. Just put your videos on. I want to see your beautiful faces. Okay, good. Are you ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Should take a picture of this. Good. So I'm going to publish this as feedback for the course. Okay, great. So, and I never had an answer. And a point came when people would ask me these questions and I got tired because here I am on the phone trying to describe an activity and tell them what to do. That's the most painful experience because they've never used those props. And you've got to describe strange things like, hey, you know what? Get a bunch of half-cut pipes. Do you know what that means? Strange, right? Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So here we go. I want you to think of your experience, and let's just make this personal. So your experience in whichever job your first day on the job. Do you remember it? Okay. Can you throw onto the screen, annotate, and tell me what words you would use to describe how you felt on that first day or first week? Annotate. You know how to annotate, right? Or any new place. It doesn't have to be a job. Job is best because, you know, it's like a strange place. Lost, nervous, curious. Yeah. Anxious. Absolutely. So here's a way of getting from your group so now I don't need to say it. Thank you very much. First day, damn, must have been a painful experience. Now think about this. Even our audiences feel the same way. And we've got to be able to manage that. Because if we don't manage it, it's more than likely that they will continue feeling that way right through. So I'm just going to describe this in the context of an outdoor program. Is that okay with you? So let's say I'm running a 3-day program with you at a campsite. You've been in the bus for 5 hours and you land at this campsite. It's evening, not dark yet, but getting there, 5 o'clock in the evening. And you land there and you get out of the bus and it's a new place. There's nothing else around. All you see is trees and tents. And I can make it more interesting by just saying, hey, you know what? There's a slight drizzle. You didn't come prepared for rain. And you now have to take your bags out. Some of you have brought suitcases, you know, those roll-on things that you carry at airports. And now you got to carry that thing onto your tent. And you can sense that something is beginning to happen. So theoretically, we know this. Practically, we know this. So the first thing you want to do is introductions. And those introductions are, and those introductions are really to people, to the place, to the boundaries, to non-negotiables. What would be a example of a non-negotiable at a campsite?
Whatever happens, it has to be done. There is nothing, I mean, you just can't cross a line. It's
What line is that? I haven't, so
a
Sandesh.
non-negotiable means like security. Probably you can't get out of the rooms after 11 in the night because there might be.
Now you're being more specific. Now you're being more specific.
Absolutely.
Right. What, so you can't, so remember this is a campsite. It's out in the wilderness.
Yeah, so you can't go out alone in the night.
Okay, what will you do?
You need to inform somebody where even if you have to go somewhere, probably at certain times of the day.
Got it. So that's an example of a non-negotiable, that if you want to step out after 11 o'clock, then take a buddy with you. No matter where you go, if you have free time and you're moving around, take a buddy with you and let whoever the people are that are running the camp know where you are going to be in case you're walking around. Another non-negotiable might be defining the physical boundaries of the campsite and saying you can't go beyond this regardless, unless you are escorted by one of the people who's running the camp. That would be a second negotiable, non-negotiable. So don't have too many of them, just have the major ones. Don't have more than 3 or 4. If you give them a long list, they're going to forget. And that's the introductory piece. Introduce the people, introduce the place, maybe walk them around. And what would be the reason for doing all this?
Usually it's for the physical safety of the participants.
No. My question is, what would be the reason for doing the introductions?
To make them feel safe.
Familiarize them.
Sorry?
To familiarize them with the place.
Okay. What else?
Make them aware of the campsite. And
okay.
Reduce their anxiety.
Yeah, that's reduce expectations. Absolutely right. So reduce anxiety, build familiarity with people in place. Okay.
Sense of belonging.
Lay down the norms.
Not yet. Be careful how quickly you go into that space. And you remember, you're just telling them about non-negotiables here. You're not laying down the norms yet. The norms are laid out separately in a different process later. We will come to that. Okay. There's a little text on the screen which you might want to read instead of me reading it for you. If you have a question, feel free to ask.
Can you give an example for the second paragraph?
It's important to take into consideration the energy of the group. Yeah, just remember that they've been in the bus for 5 hours. So maybe you just want to lead them to, the first introduction is to the washrooms. And just say, okay, leave your luggage there. That's, you go take a wash, go take a drink of water, offer them some refreshments. So that would be part of that whole breaking that journey, the monotony of 5 hours in a bus. Does that answer your question? Okay. And I know that this first piece for me is really critical. The first 2 minutes, I've noticed in my work that the first 2 minutes are so critical for me. And I'm like a hawk. I'm kind of watching them because within those 2 minutes, very often I can get a sense of what the dynamics are in the group. If I have a longer time, even better, because then that 2 minute thing can be destroyed and new ones built. But doing something, the introductory piece, which can often go on for half an hour, the refreshments, all that stuff, the washroom, the luggage piece, gives you a sense of what the group is like, and that's critical to how you're going to do things later on and the relationships that we build. Got it so far? If you have questions, feel free to ask. Okay. Now you want to go to a different place and you want to bring that energy up. So you do energizers. And so this is the hardest part of this course for me, is to talk about energizers and not do them. Okay. So classic energizers would be song and dance, movement. Okay, I'm just going to lay out the rules of energizers and what energizers tend to do. So name games. Now allow group members to get to know each other better. Don't go into too much detail. Don't make complex things. There's a ton of name games that you can do. Keep them simple. So I don't know if I've done this with you, but if I haven't, or if I have, let's do it again. Are you ready? So we're going to, did I do the 8 shake with you? No? Okay, here's what we're going to do. Right hand and count. 1. Everybody, mics on.
1.
1.
Now we're going to do this. Now we're going to do this together. We're going to shake the hand and we're going to count. And so we're going to do right hand first, then left hand.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear.
Yes.
I can hear.
We can.
Can't hear. Check your mic or speaker or whatever. Okay. So you shake the hand and count. And we count till 8, then 8 here. Then whether you're sitting or if you can stand, even better. Right leg, shake it 8 times. Then left leg, shake it 8 times. And then if you want to sit, then you move. Can you do this? Try it. Not just the head, okay? You're moving your base. You're moving your butt in the seat. Yeah. Okay, you ready? We're all going to count together. Ready? Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 1, left leg, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Got it so far?
Yeah.
And then you do a countdown. So you do it faster. And it's just crazy how it's happening on screen. There's this second gap, right? Okay. So now we're going to do it faster. And then we go 4 times, then twice, and then once.
Twice.
And just go, I think instead of the sound, go by the visual. Are you ready? So 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 2, and then 1. Ready? Go. 1,
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Yeah.
How many of you are breathing a little harder than before?
I'm sweating.
Man, this is a classic energizer. Okay, no contact. The video will show you how much laughter was going on.
Name yourself because I need to ask you something.
Non-threatening. You can do it to the degree that you want to. I know some of you did do this and some of you were very kind to yourselves. And you had different degrees of involvement. I know Dia was having a lot of fun out there. No arguments, no conversation, no competition. Some of you used a certain, you used a certain language in your journaling last for the reflection piece. And I think I've got, each time you used win, lose, success, failure, words like that, I have commented upon it. One of the things we've got to remember, now this is me, okay? You can decide whether you like success, failure, right, wrong, good, bad, success. What are the other words? Win, lose. You can decide what it is for you. But for me, I don't play with those words. I will not bring them into my language, because the moment I do that, something different happens. Not only to me, because there's judgment in that. And if I'm judging people about whether they're right or wrong or successful or a failure, then they're going to be doing it. And God knows the world has a lot of that. So just, you know, so in Energizers, everybody wins. Interesting, no? Just the whole idea of an Energizer is this. Just be careful about how, I've seen facilitators who will point at somebody who's not doing it, and somewhere that whole language of success and failure, right and wrong, why aren't you doing it? Do it, it'll be fun, comes up. Not necessary. People will do it to the extent that they want to move. Okay, so now the energy is up, it's alive and well, and you can push it to the next stage. And then there's a whole bunch of de-inhibitizers. Now what is, I just love this. Sorry, I only do traditional handshakes. Whatever that means. But, you know, there are people who, especially in this distancing time, I don't know whether you've come across people who will reach out their hand and you say, hey, whatever, or there, or that, or whatever. And in a lot of cultures, just touch can be a serious thing. And I remember activities when I was doing them in the Middle East, or what is known as Israel in Jerusalem, and I was working with these youth, Arab and Jews, and boys and girls, and there was a contact issue. And very quickly, I had to modify the activity. So instead of holding hands, I gave them pieces of ribbon, and they would hold either end of it, and it wasn't contact, and it was safe enough, and it was challenging enough for them to do it. So just simple twists that you can bring into any activity. Okay, so what do de-inhibitizers do?
Encourage.
Encourage what?
Participation.
Nice. But remember, people will do as much as they feel safe enough to do. And we've got to be careful about, and each one, you know, we all have our own boundaries. So those of you who've been through deep, I don't know if you've done this, but it's a classic high-end de-inhibitizer. So here are the rules. The objective is for all members of the group to be connected. And what that means is that every stomach must have one head resting on it.
Which shows the video.
Did you get that? Are you there? Yeah, just checking. Thank you. Just shake your head and I'm happy. Okay, so you figure that one out. You can watch the recording later. But it's a brilliant one, and people respond exactly the way you did. What the hell do you mean by that? So I will repeat it only once more. Are you listening? Raise your hand if you're listening. Okay, a lot of non-listeners. Okay, there you go. Are you okay? Here's the objective is for all players to be connected. And connection means that every stomach must have one head on it, resting on it. Yeah, I know some of you are doing this. Okay, I'm going to let you figure it out. Beautiful de-inhibitizer, but I will take them. So I will often get the group. So Deepers have done it. And I have a video of how people go from, oh my God, how can I let anybody's head be on my stomach, resting on my stomach? To, hey, come. You know, I've got a free stomach. Or who has a head? Come here. It's crazy. And some of you have been through that experience, I know. So classic de-inhibitors, high contact. And in some cultures, I would definitely not do it. In a lot of cultures, just the shaking of hands can be de-inhibitizing enough. Any questions? Himangi, I want to see your face. All I see is your forehead nodding and it's kind of, thank you. That's what you look like. Thank you.
Vishwas, can you give another example of a de-inhibitizer?
Yeah, sure. There's another one that's really fun and interesting. I've seen people move from kind of, you know, like that to like that. Is an activity called person to person. So you pair them up. And so you say, okay, stand in pairs facing each other. Great. Now they don't know what's going to happen next. And sometimes it'll be same gender, sometimes it'll be opposite gender. So you say that what I'm going to do is I'm going to call out certain body parts. And when I call them out, so if I say hand to head, you see this? So it's one hand to one head. Okay? Now, the instructions I give from here on are cumulative. Now, if there's anybody around you that you can play with, can you invite them into this space and play with them right now? It'll be brilliant. Seriously, anybody? Are you all alone?
I am.
Damn. Anybody who has, I mean, call a neighbor, what the hell, you know? Oh, there you go. Okay, so Swati, you ready? Okay, so so we've got at least one pair here. Oh, we've got three of them. Okay, let's just do pairs, okay? Okay, Gauri, right. Oh, cool, Alicia, nice. Are you ready? Neelam, where are you? You got a whole family there.
Everyone's disappeared. I'm alone right now.
Okay, so you ready? One hand to head. One hand. Alicia, just one hand. Yeah, that's it. One hand. Okay, right. Now I'm just going to call, it has to be the other person's head. When I say hand and head, it means one person's hand to the other person's head. Okay, right. Hand to knee. You can decide, but once you do, and now you have, this is cumulative, you have to add on.
Achha.
So that remains, now I've got one hand and he's got two hands, and now you got to decide whose hand goes to whose knee. But it is hand to knee, okay?
Hand to knee.
Hand to knee, okay?
Someone else's knee.
Shoulder.
I didn't understand.
Shoulder to shoulder. Now you got to keep adding this.
Shoulder to shoulder.
You can't let the other ones go. Shoulder to shoulder. Hand to head remains, hand to knee remains, shoulder to shoulder. Toe to knee.
What toe you are toeing?
Toe to knee. Okay? Everything else is all connected, huh, Alicia?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Head to shoulder. Head to shoulder.
I'm already touched with the ear.
You see how they get entangled? Okay. Jasmine, does that answer your question? Okay, now you can let go.
Thank you.
Good fall.
Thank you. Thank you, Shwas. It's actually it's a nice example. I have one question. So what happens is that from where I'm coming, a lot of time we are working with vulnerable groups. So, you know, there are a certain rules and regulations in terms of, you know, avoid contact. You know, you have to be very careful of what you are even facilitating. Like it is only after the activity is done, usme bhi kuch na kuch parishani nikal dete hain. You know, they say that, you know, you should not have got them to touch each other. So, you know, in that case, so for example, if I do this activity, so in this case, the child has the, we give them a choice to do it or not do it, right?
Always, always challenge by choice is operational. Always.
Okay.
Don't have, yeah. So remember, this course is cumulative.
Yeah. Thank you.
That tightrope walk is cumulative. All those principles, challenge by choice, invitational education, how groups develop, blah, 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 everything has to come alive. And then you decide what space it is you are in. And I mean, I've been to cultural, to countries where contact was completely not okay. But we did a hell of a lot of stuff. But here's the thing. Same gender, very often, is acceptable. So sometimes you just call that and you say, okay, you play it that way. Yeah? Okay? Great. Now, the usual, so what this essentially does is get people to kind of let their hair down, as they say. And maybe I did a lot of de-inhibitizing. So anyway, so, and you can have a group in a completely different place at the end of this stage. When I was doing corporate training and in the earlier years, and I just loved these activities. And you know, you can get the group eating out of your hand at the end of this stage because suddenly something has happened to that whole energy of the group and the way they relate. It's like everybody is looking at everybody else for permission to let their hair down and be silly and be stupid and appear as, you know, but everybody is doing it. And suddenly everybody is giving everybody else permission to be the same. And some of my colleagues said, are you crazy? You get all these managers to horse around like that? I say, yeah, it's brilliant. They do it. I have almost no examples of scenarios in which somebody refused to play. They may have started feeling shy and no, I don't want to do this. But I can assure you, after about 20 minutes of horsing around, they're in there. Okay, so critical. And you've got to be able to gauge and say, okay, are they ready for de-inhibitizers? Okay. Now here's where some of you said, you know, norms. This is your behavioral contract. And that behavioral contract is a couple of thoughts on that. No behavioral contract is written in stone. The behavioral contract is created by the group, for the period of time that they are together. Okay? And there are many different ways of doing it. Project Adventure, whose idea, this challenge by choice and adventure wave is, they call it their full value contract. You can Google it. I think I have given you some pages on that. Did anybody have a look at the files in the folder? Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
Seen it, but not read.
I know, isn't that wonderful? It's what you call a click, right? Visited, but didn't see. Thank you for visiting. Okay, so this is where we move from the activity phase for a period of time to kind of slowing that energy down a bit. You're saying, we're going to be together. What's okay and not okay for this group? How are we going to relate with each other? What language are we going to use? What are the boundaries we're going to set for ourselves? It can be done through many ways. You can do, so some of the experiential ways of doing this is to get newspaper roll, you know, and lay it out and lay down a person on it, get them to do the silhouette and say, okay, what's okay and not okay? And inside, they write down what's okay, and outside, they write down what's going to threaten the group and its learning. That's one way of doing it. You've got something called the 5-finger contract, which some of you may be familiar with. You can use the egg as a metaphor. What's inside the egg? That's a question to you. What's inside the egg?
Yolk, egg yolk.
Right. Is that just the yolk? What does the yolk become?
A chicken.
Chicken.
So life. Inside the egg is life. What's outside the egg?
Life.
In the context of, yeah, also life, but we're talking in the context of an egg, right?
Shell.
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 Protective
the shell
shell.
holds the life. Yes. What's the nature of the shell?
Hard.
Protective.
Hard.
Shield.
Right.
Brittle.
It's protective.
It protects life.
Yeah.
Why does it need protection?
To let the light grow.
Huh?
To
let the light grow inside.
But why does it need protection?
Life cannot.
What's outside?
It's
danger.
Danger, threat. So inside, so you get them to draw an egg and you say, okay, what will protect life? What's going to give life to the group? And that you write inside that oval egg. And what's outside? What is going to threaten the life inside? So that's another way of doing it. Okay? And just remember, this critical to remember is that this can be changed anytime by the group. It's created by the group, for the duration that they are together, and can be changed by the group whenever they want. And each time, when it's a process that invites dialogue. So I've done this with corporate groups, and they've gone and put it up in their on the walls in their office. And each time something happens, they reach out to that and say, what did we say we would do? And is there anything we want to change in this? Or when I did the 6th grade classroom thing that I'm going to talk about today, 6th and 7th grade, we had it up on the wall. And anytime it needed to be changed, or I said, hey, you know what, we agreed that so-and-so thing would happen. I see it's not happening. What did we say to ourselves? And do we want to change that? And what is that new sounding thing going to sound like? So just remember, it's not written in stone and can be changed by the group whenever they want. Any questions? Cool. This trust building activities. I'm sure all of you have heard of them or even experienced some of them. No activity, in my opinion, has the ability to build trust. Trust cannot be built. I don't know, man. I'm just saying new things, but this is how I feel. That trust is something we feel, and you can't get anybody else to feel it. There's a whole process involved if you want to build trust, and it begins at a very different place. But essentially, all these activities that invite people to accept each other. I like to use the word acceptance because I think acceptance is probably one of the steps before building trust. That I can't build trust in somebody that I can't accept. And to accept somebody, I need to know who they are, where they come from, which means that it's a storytelling piece. So over the years, I moved my focus from doing physical activities for building trust to doing more social, relational, emotional activities to build trust and to get people to know each other. Knowing each other invites people to accept. Acceptance then invites people to allow certain things to happen to them and to others. So that's my story about trust, but this is an important stage. Have you seen that video of a trust building activity being done, the trust fall, exactly the same thing? The only difference was these guys were all paying attention. This guy wasn't told that he needed to fall back. He fell in front. Yeah, it's true. Maybe I should put it up sometime. Anyway, so you notice through that process of energizing, de-inhibitizing, and trust, behavioral contract and trust, you're increasing the level of risk that you're inviting people to take. Yeah? Okay. This is probably the first time you do any reflection. You don't want to reflect at the energizer, de-inhibitizer, all the other. So when you go through trust building activities or acceptance building activities, it might be a good idea for you to, the first time. We've done reflection, so I won't go into the details of this. Did you get the humor of that visual? Okay, nobody's smiling. You all look so serious, man. This is what a lot of spouses say to each other. Okay. So you've done this, right? We've been through this whole how reflection can happen and so on and so forth. And I have to say thank you so much for those 15, 16 people who did oh, I found some that did not come in the appropriate channel. So that number moved from 13 to, I think now 16 people who have done their journals. Thank you very much. And I wasn't sure how it went for you last time. And I'm so glad that just reading all that stuff gave me some insight. So you've done all this, you know what that is. Okay, so here's where the rest of the activities begin that we are often familiar with and we use in our work. And there's very clearly a suggested sequence of things, of activities. So initially you want to begin with communication because everything that in a group involves conversations. So whatever activities focus on communication and people talking to each other, do them first. Okay? And then you just go through that cycle of whatever. Now, you got to remember, this is a 1970s model where they say, brief the activity, then do the activity, then debrief the activity. And that's kind of cyclic. But we've looked at other ways you can bring reflection at many different places, remember? So you can use metaphors, you can do front loading, you can do interventions, and then if you feel like you want to do something in the end, do something in the end. So when we do the outdoor piece, whenever that is, I will be walking you through different activities in each stage of this wave. Okay, I'm going to leave the reading of the text to you. If you have a question, I'll give you enough time for you to read it and ask a question if you want. Otherwise, I'm just going to move on. Okay? Shall we? I'm delegating decision making to you. See, I'm sure you're aware that a lot of, especially people in the service sector, we do stuff and get people to do stuff for other people without going through the earlier pieces. And the question that a lot of people who go through that social service thing, CSR activities, are saying, why the hell did I do that? I mean, why am I building toilets for somebody who's never going to go to that toilet anyway? Why am I building a dam for somebody else? They're the ones who need the water. They should be building it? Why am I doing it for them? And for that period of time, they might feel happy, but I think that question's alive. And the reason they don't find meaning in it is because they did not do the earlier pieces. So just remember that there is reason why these activities have been laid out in a particular sequence. Finally, Buddhahood. Okay, Now, no matter what you do, the closure is a critical part of anything. And we're going to be doing a closure in the next session. So the next session, I'm just going to do some stuff, but I want to leave half the time open for questions. And if you don't have any questions, then great. If you have questions, it's a good time for us to bring that all together. So the invitation over the coming week is for you to go through as much as you can about what we've covered and see if there are things that you want clarified. Okay? Don't leave the course only with question marks. Leave with some answers as well. Okay? So I'll be doing a closure activity as well next Saturday. Any questions?
Would it be possible for you to walk us through the stages of, let's say, the adventure camp itself?
Sorry?
I'm having struggle visualizing the entire stages, how it will play out in a particular program.
Okay, here we go. You understood the Energizer. So 3-day camp, age group, 6th, 7th, 8th graders, co-ed group, 5-hour journey. They come to the campsite. Introduction to the site, introduction to, okay, you're going to wash your own plates, the non-negotiables, and so on and so forth. And then I have a little chat with them. Sorry, my son's back from a journey and hi.
And?
So, yeah, my son and his to-be spouse. Okay. You want to say hi? So okay.
Sorry, I can continue.
That's a modeling face, and this is my son.
Hello, hello. Hi, hi.
Okay, so introductions, share agenda, how we're going to go about it, all that stuff. Let's just say it's evening, then they go to bed. I let them know what the next morning is going to look like. You're going to be woken up at 6 o'clock, be ready for breakfast by 7:30. It's your time till then. Or I might say, we're going to have wake up exercises, warm up exercises before breakfast. You need to wear shoes, blah, 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 all that, all those things I say. Then I do my energizers. I do my de-inhibitizers, maybe for an hour each. And then I sit them down, give them a paper and pen and say, okay, how are we going to make this successful for ourselves? And we build, let's say, a 5-point contract and say that this is okay and this is not okay. We've got our behaviors in place. And every time that something happens or doesn't happen, I'm going to go back there and say, hey, that was a great job at conversation. I think you had a wonderful conversation without fighting with each other. Even when things don't work out and they're struggling with it, I say, what did we say about listening to each other? How are we going to do it? And they build the practice as we go along. Are you getting it so far? Great. Then I do I increase the risk level of activities and create an opportunity for them to get to know each other. And then I go into what we call the problem solving activities, where you present something to them and they have to solve it in groups. And by and large, really, the different activities, the focus can be communication, problem solving, decision making, leadership, whatever themes you have in your, whatever. Those of you who worked with InMe, I think some of you are here, right? Sujang Shu. Okay, I created some curriculum for them on how, on that process for different themes. Maybe I can share one of them with you on a particular topic. So there's empathy, and so they have a certain format, and I can share a format with you, and that might give you some insight into that. Will that help? Okay. So Shika, please remind me if I forget to put that up. Cool. Time for a break. 7-minute break, take off. If you have questions, come back with them. And then we're going to move into the thick of design. Okay?
We will be using the A4 sheets and stuff to write on, right? That you told us about.
Yes. Yeah, get that A4 sheet and pen in place. And would you like some music, those of you who are hanging around? Okay. So welcome back to session 7 of ee2go 2. Welcome, Mumbai, or whatever. Good morning, India. Good evening, India. No. I'll handle it. I wish our network was faster, then we'd be able to do some song and dance stuff. Do you know that Bajra song? Anybody know that Bajra song? Yeah? Delhi se mora bhai layo re Bajra.
Hi re mora Bajra.
Yeah, so it's when you do song and dance, you say Delhi se mora bhai layo re Bajra. Hai kasam Bajra, teri kasam Bajra. Hai kasam Bajra, teri kasam Bajra. Yeah, I feel so silly doing it alone, man. Okay, shall we begin? So here is the 5 Ds of design, and I have kind of brought focus to it in the context of a classroom. Now, if you want it for the outdoors, let me know. If you can't build the connections, stop me. Oops. Okay, here's a quick revision. Okay. I'm sure you're getting it. Ta-da! Okay, here we go. First D, diagnosis. Now there are 4 kinds of diagnosis, and while the language sounds corporate-ish, know that I'm trying to build a connection to classroom work. So sometimes it's just a conversation. Somebody calls you and says, hey, we need to do a 2-day program or whatever. Sometimes you use an instrument. An instrument is an assessment tool. So you might be doing MBTI or learning styles inventory or DISC or whatever you are familiar with, where you're assessing the group, you're diagnosing the group. the more deeper they want you to go, they might say, hey, you might want to interview a bunch of people. So the other day I got a request saying, hey, we want you to work with 5 of the senior leadership team, and what will you do? And they said, will you need to do interviews and so on? And I might do an interview just to find out what the mood is, what they think about the kind of training that the organization wants them to go through. And even deeper than that is observation. That means I go out there and watch them at work. Okay. Obviously, the more you do, the more you charge very often. So there are very few scenarios in which in 30 years of this work that I've ever done, maybe 3 times I may have gone through to the interview and observation space. By and large, it's just somebody calling and saying, we want to do this. Okay. So what are the, in the context of a classroom, I want you to think about, okay, you might have been teaching them for the past 5 years, doesn't matter, these questions are still valid. One of the weaknesses of classroom teaching is we don't ask enough questions of ourselves. We just think, this is what I'm supposed to deliver, you know, geography curriculum or math curriculum. How many of you are classroom? Am I imagining that we've got a lot of classroom teachers here? Or is it true? Raise your hand if you're a classroom teacher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. The rest of you, what do you do? Corporate? Service sector? Corporate, how many? Corporate, 1, 2, or adult. Let me just say adult education. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so then I'm just going to, I don't know, you build your connections, okay? I went to a lot of trouble to build it for the classroom, so that's what I'm going to do. You know, if you don't get it, but it's still valid. What do they know? So if you're doing corporate, then you're saying, okay, leadership, I'm supposed to do leadership. What do they know about leadership? What's their idea of leadership? If you're doing classroom, then you're saying, what do they know? If you're doing, I'm just going to take the example of, does geography work for you or history or what? Works? Okay, I'll just take geography. So geography, what do they know about geography? You want to find out. So if I'm doing 7th grade geography, how much do they know when they walk into my classroom on day 1 in 7th grade? What are they able to do? Intellectually, emotionally, socially, physically. This is a really important piece when you're doing adult work. If you want them to climb a mountain, how many of them have, you know, have had heart attacks or stents, I don't know, or broken bones? You want to know stuff like that. Check them out, ask them questions. What does that geography mean to you? Are they able to make connections between the classroom world and the world outside? So the workshop, the course that I'm doing starting October on transference is essentially this. And how do you take something, a topic that you're going to be teaching or educating a group on, and help them transfer the skills or whatever that is, the behaviors, into real life? That's what transference is. And so some of it, you want to know this so you can make the connections for them. Have they had any opportunities in applying what they've been learning in the classroom anywhere else? Really important question. So I'm just going to keep clicking, and if you don't understand or you need clarification, please stop me. The reason I have text, a lot of text in some of them, is so it can invite you to reflect while we are here.
Vishwas, I had a question over here.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are in this diagnose stage, when you're having this, trying to find out what, okay, what's possible, you find out, let's say, out of a group of you have a group of, let's say, 25 kids, and you realize maybe one or two kid might not fit into the parameters of the physical capabilities for whatever you have thought of. Then what do you do in such a stage? You are right now in the diagnosis stage. Do you change your entire plan of how you're going to handle it, or?
Sandesh, you don't have a plan yet. You're still diagnosing.
Okay.
The problem is very often we create something and then diagnosis is meaningless.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
No, but have you ever refused anybody from being a part of a program because they did not?
Never.
No. Okay.
Never.
Great. That's
what I have. So, I mean, you know, scenarios like that are perfect for just creating a space in which people then support each other. So they devise ways of being able to support those who might not be able to do it. And if they can't think it through, then the classic question is, okay, what if somebody sprains an ankle? So you're not calling on people's disabilities or inabilities. You're saying it could happen to anybody, right? What if I'm not able to carry my own backpack? What are you going to do? What if I have an attack of asthma, and the group has now got, then the group figures out what it's going to do, its course of action. And the same holds true in the classroom as well. Does that make sense?
Vishwas?
Yeah.
So if you don't get a chance to interact with your learners or audience before you start designing, then do you create some space for diagnosis in whatever your first interaction is and keep some design for it to emerge? Like, I'm just wondering because in a lot of cases, the chance to interact with, say if I'm teaching in a college, if I'm doing a workshop in a college for 3 days, I've only interacted with 2 of their faculty members, probably, went through their Facebook page to see what the kids are saying, but haven't interacted with them at all.
Sometimes those teachers become your source of information.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might be, okay, what's the age group? What's the background? What blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you have to ask devious questions like, what are the fees that kids pay for this course? And that gives you an indication as to where they're coming from.
Sure.
Yeah?
Sure.
Find out as much as you can.
Yeah.
I've been... most of my life doing corporate work has been, hey, can you, next Saturday, can you run a program for 35 people on leadership? Of course I can run it. And then I ask a whole bunch of questions and I may not get answers. So here's the thing, to answer your, I think I've talked about it before. I will always spend the first 1/3 of the program building community. And what that essentially is also is me watching them and saying, okay, where do they come from? What's their attitude? What's physically, what do I think they're capable of doing? What is their relationship with success and failure? All that comes alive for me.
Sure, thank you.
Got it? Okay. So now all that information is going to inform your design. And when you design, you can be playful and build fantasy frameworks, which means if you, a fantasy framework typically would be, let's say you want a group to cross from point A to point B and you give them some bricks to do so, and they can't step on the ground. Then you say the ground is crocodile infested waters and the bricks are turtles. And contact is necessary because you've all been through an atomic bomb attack and your systems are haywire, and if you don't hold hands, you're going to die because you need somebody else's energy flowing through you as well. Classic fantasy framework. Okay? Make believe. Reality is general life situations. So, decision making, how do you make decisions? Do you think things through? What are the choices in your life? Do you struggle with anger? Those are general life scenarios. Okay, that's reality. Contextual is when you're working with adult groups or children groups, and if you're working with an organization and you're working with a team, the team and what they're going through is your context. And sometimes you don't know that. And you figure that out as you go through the activities. You say, okay, what's the context of, what are the obstacles in your work? Must be more. सो जाओ बिटवा, सो जाओ. Okay? Any questions?
What is isomorphic, Vishwas?
Number?
No, I'm saying, what is isomorphic?
Hey, you have to attend the transfer course.
Ah.
So isomorph is when you create a scenario in which, let's say you have props. Oh, I'll give you an example. We talked about an isomorphic frame when we talked about the first picture in the presentation. The tightrope walk. The beginning represents where I was. The end represents where I want to be. The harness represents my safety, whatever I know and what's going to help me make that walk. So each item, each prop in that picture represents or is similar to something. Isomorph. Iso is similar, morph is shape. So you create an isomorphic framework.
Vishwas, can you make that a little bit more simpler?
No, it isn't. It isn't simple. That's how it is.
Okay.
Just imagine that word isn't there, okay? I should not have put it there. Just remember, this is, can I just use the word and say, you know what, this whole course is designed for, just imagine you're entering the field of experiential ed with a theoretical perspective. So know that an isomorphic frame exists, but you don't need to know at this stage what it is. Does that work? Yes, go.
I think so.
Okay.
So can I ask one thing?
Hmm?
Dynamic obstacle course in which we have that swing and, cantilevers and all those. So will that fall in the category of a reality or what?
You can use that for any of these. It's how you present the brief of the activity that then helps you process it in either a reality framework where you talk about general concepts of life, about how we deal with stress and how we deal with obstacles, or you can also talk about it in the context of their workplace. So each obstacle then represents a particular obstacle in their workplace.
And it becomes fantasy.
No. Fantasy is that.
See, if I project it as I show it as a project, you know, which has to be delivered in a certain time frame. It is a pilot for that.
Is it similar to their workplace?
Successfully, then you get the big order.
Yeah. Wait. Careful. Now, is this is that what that team does? Are they a team delivering a project in their real?
Yes, if it's a group of software engineers,
good,
tester, and
then it's the contextual framework that you're giving. But you see, the thing is this: very often we build a contextual framework when we present an activity, but we don't review or process it or facilitate it using that language. And when we don't do that, then we're not transferring what they're learning here to their workplace. So the language that is used by them, when you, let me say that again. Oh, yeah. Is it frozen? Yeah. Okay. I know we froze for a second, so I'm going to say it again.
No, it's okay. We can hear you.
Okay, now you can, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you present the activity, and what are the words you use for the obstacle course?
Dynamic obstacle.
It's a project.
Yes. Present it as a
project.
As a pilot project.
Yeah. The project.
Vishwas, can you please repeat? I just can't hear a thing here.
You froze.
Okay, we're just going to switch computers. Give me a second. Okay. So, okay. Right.
Your voice is echoing.
All good? Okay. So here's the contextual framework, Milind, that you were talking about. Here's a project. The client gives you a project. Delivery is to be given on a certain date. Your objective is to finish that project. Yes? Is there anything else you say?
No, yes.
Simple, right?
Yes.
Now, here's the thing. When they come to that first obstacle and they struggle with it, you can intervene and ask them a question. Okay, so I notice you're struggling with this. What is the first struggle you have when you're back at work? And they might tell you, oh, usually the first problem we have is we don't have the hardware, or we don't have enough people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now you're getting them to think about the similarities between the obstacles on your dynamic obstacle course and the workplace. And you begin to use the language that they use.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when we don't do that, and we talk only in the context of the outdoor dynamic obstacle course, by the way, guys, this is called DOC, okay? Just letting you know what the terminology is. If you, then they don't take it home. They think it's just another thing that we did at the campsite. The beauty is when they can take it back and they can say, hey, you know what? This is what we did when we were on that outdoor program. How did we resolve it? We did this, this, this. So let's try that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Good?
Oh,
Vishwas, one thing.
Yeah.
So in the context of this course,
Yeah.
ee2go, would we say that you are using, like in many, say in today's session, forget like this course, in today's session, you are using the reality framework and bringing in contextual pieces? I'm just trying to think about how we spoke about it today. So I'm wondering if you would call today, say, you using the
Yes.
reality framework
Yes.
largely.
And I did a contextual framework for Milind because he asked for it.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Right.
Okay.
So in your preparation, when you write your questions down, these are the questions you ask yourself before. So you write 15 questions for every scenario that you can imagine. Just remember, if you don't put in the hard work before, the question, that beautiful, sweet question will not come to you when you need it most. I mentioned it earlier, I'm going to say it again. Most times people want to be there in that sweet place without doing much work. And by and large, the complacency or the response I often hear is, अरे यार जब हो जाएगा तब सवाल करेंगे. Sorry, Natalia, you need translation?
Yes, please.
Okay, so when it happens, I will think of the question. If it comes, great. If it doesn't come, doesn't matter. And then, of course, you're going to walk away disappointed. But when you get that sweetness with that beautiful question, you ask it once, I can assure you it becomes addictive. When you ask that question and you actually trigger exploration by the group and the individuals, something completely different begins to happen. And you know you've got it, but it does not come and will not come without putting in the effort. Okay? We've covered this before. I know somebody's going to ask me, what is filtering? We know about funneling, but what is filtering? Please refer to document in folder. The detached piece is that closure piece. And I will explain this terminology. Evaluation. How did the program go? So what you often call feedback. Anchoring. Give them a notebook, give them a hat, give them a t-shirt. That t-shirt then reminds them about the experience that they had. So it anchors in that thing. Action plan. What are you going to do when you go back? How are you going to transfer what you have learned to? Check up. When shall we meet again? Because we've had such a wonderful time and we've learned such a lot. can we have another program 15 days later just to check in on whether we've started practicing some of the stuff we said we would? Booster. Oh, that was fun. Let's have it every quarter. Ongoing. Sometimes an organization will love you and your work so much that they say, hey, can you do a long-term intervention? So it starts sometimes with a 2-day or 3-day outdoor thing. And then they say, can you do a little more on this subject and that subject? And then it's not always outdoor. You go back and in their conference room, people gather and you run pretty much a content-based program for them. So it kind of continues over a period of time. Any questions? Wow, we're doing really well. On time, I mean. Okay. There are different kinds of programs. Now, that terminology that you noticed earlier, I'm just going to take it back. You'll notice conversation, fantasy, fun and play, debrief, none. For example, that combination is used in a particular kind of program. So, for example, you have something called a recreational program where it's just fun and games. Organizations will very often invite you to do a team building activity and then they'll say, but you know what? We want 95% activity and 5% learning. I don't know what that means, but that's what they say. What they're essentially telling you is, hey, look, you know what? Don't do all this. How did it feel? What did you do? All that. Don't ask too many questions. We don't want to think. The group is having a break and this is a break program. We can't, and we're taking it out of the training budget. So we're calling it a team building program, but this is what we want you to do, recreation. So diagnosis is essentially conversation. They're going to be 200 people and we have 3 hours. Oh, great. Okay, fine. What is the objective? Feel good. What is the design? Fantasy framework. Crocodiles and rockets and spaceships and spiders and whatever else you want to have. You can decide. Delivery is on just the activity. Go have fun. 100% doing, fun, and play. Debrief, not needed. No connections are being made. Just having fun. Detach, maybe a cap, maybe, one of those things. Got it? Yeah, simple enough. This is, the education piece is where a lot of us want to be. This is the big one. Diagnosis, conversation, we want this done. Okay, who is the group? What age group are they? Can I do, I want to find out who they are a little more. Can we do a little of that? Okay, fine. Addresses. Now this is cumulative, okay? It builds. So the earlier one addresses feelings. Now you're addressing how people think about something. 90% of the work that is done in the corporate world is here. Decision-making, conflict, planning, strategy. Milan, give me some more.
Seeking and giving help.
Empathy.
Cooperation, collaboration.
Right. All that stuff is here. Now here's what they mix up. They will often give you a mandate saying, I'm going to give you 4 hours. Here's a team of 10 people. At the end of the course, at the end of the program, we want them to have changed their behavior. My answer to people like that is, look, Jesus Christ came, Gandhi ji came, Buddha came, all the prophets in the, all the great ones, they've come on this planet and gone, but we are still where we are. You want me to change these people in 10 hours? Even in 10 years, I might not be able to do it. I don't want to take that on. So I'm going to affect the way they think about it, and if they feel motivated enough, they will do it. Does that make sense? So be careful about what you commit, especially in the corporate world, to doing and delivering. Okay, so in your design, when you, your activities and you brief them and all that, it's reality frameworks, general concepts about life. Delivery is conceptual. So you only, what are the concepts behind conflict? What was it you said, Milind? A collaboration, cooperation, coordination, communication. Usually these 4 words are banned in our conversation, so don't bring them up. Because I don't think anybody knows what they mean. 75% doing, 25% discussion. Debrief is funneling and filtering. Funneling. What happened? Okay, so what's the connection between what you did or what happened and what's going to happen? How is it going to show up in where it happens in your workplace? Now what? Bas, khatam. Get them to make the connection, go through the experiential learning cycle, and you've done your debrief. And the intention is only to bring them to that place where they begin to think differently about whatever the mandate is. Detach, evaluation, anchoring, and action plan might be there. This is what most organizations want, behavioral change. Okay. I'm not going to go into the details here. So if you have a question, then ask. Oops, this general life energy.
Vishwas?
Yeah.
The group size is 10 to 20 and the instructor ratio is 1:8.
Yeah.
So could you please explain that?
Because you've got a lot of conversations going on, the ratio is smaller.
So is it one instructor or do you have to have many?
1:8 participants, 1 instructor to 8 participants. Look, India mein nahi chalta.
No, I'm looking at it from a classroom situation also.
Yeah.
Where a teacher is there
No,
and the ratio is just...
Classroom, we don't do developmental work. We do educational work. If you, oh, sorry, Zen. You're in India, no?
Yes.
So please change that to 1:88 or whatever, I don't know. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, people don't consider counseling work, the importance of counseling work and the need for your counselees to be able to speak up, and they give you group sizes of 25 and 30, which is completely useless. I get it.
What is transferring to life in delivery?
Let's say, so here's, you're talking of contextual frameworks. So it's the context that they come from. Let's just say I have an addiction problem. Okay. When you deliver, what you're constantly trying to build is analogies between what's going on in the activity to what's happening in life. If there's time today, I'll tell you a little story. I think there's time. Oh, no, there isn't. Damn it. Here's the big piece. We've just come to it. Here's the story.
So, did you move past the last piece, Vishwas? Okay.
You're welcome.
We didn't cover the last scenario, no? On your...
Right.
And why is that?
Because there's more to do, more important things to do.
Okay.
Sir, can you share that screen for 10 seconds, the last one?
I'm going to count. You ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. टेंशन आ रहा है कि नहीं? 8, 9. Ta-da!
सर हैदराबाद में 10 सेकंड बोलो तो 1 मिनट होता।
या आपने कहा कि कहीं भी जाओ 4 चीजें होती है। 4 बोले तो 4 मीनार। आप 10 बोल रहे हैं आप। Sorry, this is old history we have.
Thank you.
Okay, for many years I was doing teacher training. Now I'm sorry, but this is the meat of today's session. Okay, so hang in there. This was my design for what I did. I was asked to take the 7th grade geography. No, sorry, there's a story behind it. I did a lot of teacher training and the teacher said, yeah, but you're a consultant. You don't have to go walk into a classroom with 30 and 40 students and deliver things every day. And it gets so boring and it's so hard and they don't listen and we have only so much time. 5 minutes go in the beginning, 5 minutes go in the end. We have only 30 minutes. Okay, great, I hear it. So I went back into the classroom to find out what was so impossible. The school was willing to take my madness. They said, yeah, you can bring your madness into school, but the conditions are these. You have to take attendance. You have to give marks ever so often. And you have to have a final exam and you have to write reports. I said, great, here are my conditions. I want a double period. Whenever you give it to me, I want 80 minutes, not 40 minutes. I want to meet them twice a week. And what I do and how I do it is my business. They said, you have to cover the content. I said, agreed, but I will not cover content the way you want me to. I will decide how it's going to be covered. But I'll guarantee you by the end of the year, they would have covered content. So we went up and down with this. It was great fun. Finally, I walked into the classroom. I used the first 2 weeks to gauge who these kids were. By the end of the second week, I had my plan made out. Now you got to remember, just putting some numbers out there. Here's what the geography curriculum looks like. 7th grade, CBSE. Don't waste your time looking at it so closely, Gauri. You see, the whole method relies so heavily on giving them the answers that suddenly, if you add 5 pages to each one of these chapters, the teacher begins to say, oh, my God, there's so much to cover. Bahut drama. Okay, here's what it really is. Shurabhi, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, just take a quick glance at it, okay? All right. Hey, I want to do a breakout room right now. Are you okay with it? Okay, I'm going to push you today. Sorry, this is second last session. Those who have to leave, I apologize. But here it is. I'm going to send you into breakout rooms. And this is the question. So take a snapshot of this page if you can. On phone, on screen, whatever you want to do. Srishti, don't go to sleep. Oh, you can actually. Okay, you took it? I'm not going to give you much time. 10 minutes only. Oh, no, 7 minutes.
No, how many people?
Oh. Okay, you ready? You know what the question is? Come up with as many ideas as you can. Please have a note taker. And I want this to be done fast and furious. Don't start going into details. Great. Any questions? No? Good. Have fun.
Are we the only ones who are back?
So did you have fun?
Yes.
Okay. Getting a hang of it?
Yes.
They'll be back in a few seconds, I think.
They get that 60 seconds. No, to...
So tell me what you came up with. Yes, Gauri, go ahead.
Since I was the note taker, some of the things that we came up with, one was if we start with what they already know about this and contextualize it in terms of where they live, what from this they're experiencing every day. We spoke about folk tales around these topics and how we can bring that in. We also spoke about thinking about different people who work in different areas and getting them to getting like someone who's doing mining to talk about what's inside Earth and stuff like that. Building models, so getting in Play-Doh and getting people to, actually do some 3D work around these topics. Going back to your parents and grandparents to understand their understanding of these topics as well, so that they can see how things are changing. We spoke about this whole idea of also getting news reports. So actually, what is happening about all these things now in their presence? So finding news reports of all kinds, bringing them
In the context of geography.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and the last thing we spoke about was this whole idea of creating their own personalized journals. So considering they were in class 7, and a lot of these topics, some of them they would have touched upon in previous classes and they are going to touch upon it later as well. So a journal that they can carry from class to class and build on this idea.
Brilliant. Wonderful ideas. Anybody else? Additional pieces?
We also discussed about maybe dividing dividing a few groups in the classroom, and each group takes up a topic and teaches it to the other one, and then we go through a reflection on after that on these just 2 questions in terms of key learnings and how would I apply it to real life. That could be one. The another one that we thought of was creating a project where children could actually apply. So we don't go chapter by chapter, but objectives of chapters are applied in the projects and children are learning them while they're working on those projects. Then these can be taken up by the children and designed and worked around those. So I think that'd be very exciting that way. I think these are 2 additions that we had.
Anybody else? Yes, Anushri.
We could not hear Gauri's list of the talk that they...
Doesn't matter. You just give me yours.
Okay. All right. So we discussed a few things, which I would say now. So presentations is what we had in mind, to give them presentations and like colorful presentations. Also give the students a chance to present if they want, or if they would like to. Open discussion in the classroom, less of paper tests, inviting guest speakers. They have some change, somebody else to look forward to than the same face, and break the monotony. Change in environment, maybe take them to an open space than like a classroom, and giving them chance to reflect upon what they've studied, maybe say last 10 or 15 minutes of the class.
Damn, you guys are much better than me together. So here we go. I'm going to tell you what I did, and see. And I think big picture show you how all the principles that we've talked about so far came together. Unless somebody is desperate to share something that has not been said yet, say it now.
Anaka, you want to share?
Yes, yes. Vishwas, we thought about imaginary trip. Can you hear me?
Your voice is cracking.
So, students will go for it and what is the impact? How will impact?
It's still cracking.
Switch off video.
Okay. Okay. Let me try once more, and if it doesn't work, then I'll take it forward.
Okay. We talk about imaginary trip. So children will go for a trip. So what will they pack? By few things, the stuff they will carry. So they will think about the weather and transport and everything about the place they are going, where they are going.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. So here's how I went about it. So this is the big picture. The purpose of being, I was looking at the full year, needed to complete the textbook, the chapters, and what processes am I going to use through the entire thing. Then I said, oh, okay, you know what, within that, I also want to build the community of the classroom. And what elements will it have? It'll have exchange and influence, dialogue, purpose, adjustments, flexibility. You guys have said a lot more already around that. Then there's also this small group growth. So getting them to do small group work. And the way we did that was divided the classroom into the 7 continents, and then broke that up. So they would be looking at their focus piece, and then they would present to the rest of the group. So problem solving, decision making, differences, collaboration, all these things. This is part of that whole community building piece. And then of course, through that entire piece, there is this individual growth in the context of social, emotional, and intellectual, where we make the, the behavioral contract, what's okay, not okay, what's going to support learning, what's going to take away, and revisiting that ever so often. Okay, so a critical piece, we've done this before, that if you keep talking, that's what happens. But if you introduce challenge by choice and you keep this alive, then they begin to take the responsibility of learning from each other. Yeah? Okay. So I'm going to build it in the context of what we've already covered. And all the text that you find here is in the context of what that project or that classroom was, the 7th grade, 1 year long. You got to remember that if you count up the time, I had 86 hours with them. And 86 hours is a long time. So I'm not going to go through the details of this, but you can look at it because all the questions are in the context of that geography class. Now, here's what I've done. I've put my questions there. What, so what, now what? And I was looking at, okay, what process am I going to use to make some of that happen? Okay? I hope you've done a course in fast reading or whatever. But just glance at it for now. Notice that the last 3 questions here, how can we apply what we've learned when we go to class 8? What will we do the next time we travel? What could we do when we encounter differences? What kind of culture will we create when we work with groups? Are all larger contexts. So I'm moving them in their thinking away from the current classroom to real life scenarios. Okay? Okay, here's some pictures from what I could find. I mean, how many hands do you need to hold a that scale in place? Everybody wanted to be there. Everybody wanted to have their hands doing something, which is such an exciting time. So eventually what we decided to do was to do 10 by 20 canvas, 10 feet, 10 by 20 canvas, do the world map, and then mark all the physical features of the planet on that. Struggles, conversations, it's too high, get a tall person to hold it, climb on a stool, where will we get the stool in a school? Oh, let's just use the bench. Now, very clearly, the boys wanted to do certain things and the girls wanted to do different things. You notice how it's working, right? Detailing. Not too many boys like detailing. Here you've got these kids, squinting at it. This is what they started creating. They wanted to come on Saturdays. They destroyed my life, man. And the reason was this. No school on Saturday. You can come in mufti. Otherwise, they don't meet each other in normal clothes, right? Everybody's in a uniform. That uniform is supposed to make everybody equal. But hey, Saturdays was party time. They'd bring their food in dabbas and we'd go and hang out and they would work on this. It was just incredible what happened as a community. And there were two sections and this is what they finally produced. You'll notice that they look different. Not just the size, they look different. Yeah? What's the difference? Can you notice? Any geography teachers here? You'll notice that the map on the right looks longer. Everything looks longer. And the reason is we discovered halfway through the entire exercise that there is a ratio between latitude and longitude. If you make squares, you get what's on the right. But when you work with that ratio, something else begins to happen. And the one on the left is the one that you normally see maps with. And that's 11th grade geography. They discovered that and brought it into play. And they went way beyond the book, way beyond the book. Anyway, so that's the geography story. Take a look at it. I also want you to, so here are more connections that you can make as an educator. And you can bring in Colin Beard's model that we learned about the 6 dimensions and frame questions around that. You remember doing, sensing, feeling. What are the other 2?
Think.
And?
Be.
Non-deepers, please respond. What are the other 2?
Being, no? The last one.
Huh?
Being.
Being.
No. No.
Thank you. So these are, you have a look at it later. No rush. Okay? Any comments or questions before we move on? It's pretty unfair that I'm asking you this question right now. So you can leave the questions and comments for later if you want, but I want to leave you with some homework. Get into groups. You decide whom you want to work with. Make groups. And I want you to consider something. I realized to that whole, and because I'm going to take this forward into how you can do it in your classroom. And there are three pieces that are critical to this entire exercise. What I realized was this, that there was this piece that I'm going to call content. Okay, and the content is answering the question, what do I want them to know? And those of you who are doing adult work, corporate work, please know that the same thing applies. Okay? And so under that, I've given just so you understand it a little better, I've given you some other questions. And those questions are, what curriculum do they need to go through? Where can I find other resources to know and what that they can access and what they want to know? What I didn't tell you was that because I had thrown away the textbook, the large picture was we've got to learn about the physical features of the planet. Where will you find the information? And they, of course, said, oh, we don't have a textbook. So library. And where else can you find information?
Internet.
Google. So once they had their continent themes, what they did was they went on, their continent teams, they went on they went to their, I said, where will you get internet? Parents. Great, go ask your parents. And some parents were okay with it, some parents were not. Some parents were okay with printing stuff, and each team brought a box file of printouts. I said, okay, now I'm not going to tell you how much of that is relevant. You are going to highlight all the pieces that excite you. And that became their curriculum. So constantly, this process of sending it back to them to make decisions, because the energy that they found once they made their own decisions about how much they wanted to learn was incredible. And they learned way beyond 7th grade. At the end of the year, what I realized was this. The capacity of these kids is underutilized. We undermine their intelligence by us deciding what they need to learn. And the whole process in those 86 hours was effortless. No, not effortless, resistance-less. The amount of effort they put into learning what they had decided to learn was incredible. Challenged by choice in operation. So here's what I want you to do. Make groups, choose your topic, and I'm going to send you the URL, and you fill it up, and you put it out there. The second piece that was critical was process. Once they decide what they wanted to learn, how are they going to do it? And when you can visualize the process, you can then define or put down what skills are going to be built or developed as we go through the process. How's it going? You can put your mics on and share all your troubles with me, don't worry. Yes, you okay? No, that's okay, that's okay. You don't have to sit up, man. Anything you want to say or ask?
So Vishwas, we need to make our groups. Is there any specific number of people that can be there in that group?
You can do whatever you want.
Is this
just make it
during the week?
During the week. You got 1 week.
And the topic can be anything, not necessarily geography. Correct?
You can do whatever is relevant to you and your world.
Okay. And we can reach out to them on Slackbot? Should we use that?
Yeah, absolutely. In Slack, you can make your own groups.
Okay.
Isn't that true?
The task ones.
This becomes a group assignment or an individual assignment?
You can decide.
Okay.
You can take any topic and, you know, use this format.
Okay, so we take a topic and then we fill the content, process its skills.
So I'm going to send you this. Now, to be able to fill that, you do need to create an account in Padlet. It's free. Okay? And the advantage is that when everything comes together, you will have access to not just one, but everybody else's stuff. So you can think about, it'll give you some insight into how other people are thinking about it as well. I'm here. I can answer any question you want. Are you just shocked about how much you have to do in the coming week? Is that what I'm seeing on your faces?
Yes. The topic is supposed to be from which?
In your context, you can choose what? Leadership, decision, anything that, you know, you decide whatever you're familiar with. And you can choose partners here who are doing adult work and work with them. So, you know, you might want to work with Dia. Who are the other corporate trainers here? Mayuri. Great. Natalia, don't you work with corporates? Okay.
No.
So you
I work with individuals.
Individuals, okay. So if you want to do individual, that's fine too, okay? You don't have to make groups. That's fine too. What? You thought it was going to get easier towards the end, is it? The next session, we'll be detailing a little more on this. And I'm keeping half the time undesigned. And the intent is, if there's anything you need clarification on, that's going to be our last session. And it will also have a closure piece. So half the time I will use and half the time is open to whatever you want. And if you let me know beforehand, if there's something you want covered, then it'll help me.
What about the A4 sheets and the 10 grams that you got us to do?
I know. So the A4 sheets were actually designed for, I found that we were running out of time, but I wanted to, you know, the funnel in the earlier part of today. I wanted you to, you can do this for yourself. Just draw a funnel, and whatever it is that you do, what are the different things that you put in to that funnel? So using that funnel design, the inverted funnel, and using that as your piece and saying, okay, what are your stress areas? When do you feel stressed out when you have to deliver something? And what are the things that you do that comes out of the funnel, the inverted funnel? That was the paper. We're done for today. Feel free to leave. Feel free to stay. I'm here. Have a great week.